Fight fans worldwide, this is Upper Echelon Sports Bar, where we maintain boxing at its finest form. It's facts over feelings here. We not a boxer fan, but we are boxing fans. So that means it's non-biased, even though you think it may be no. We love all boxers because we love the sport of boxing, and we hope to progress it and get away from this false narrative that it's going in. So y'all sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride because Upper Echelon's in the building, and we gonna keep it ready.
Right now, we sit at the eve of the biggest fight in 40 years. And yes, the fight is being difficult to be made. But who would have thought? Well, history has been known to repeat itself right now. And see, as for Earl Spence, this is considered a legacy fight. And Terrence Crawford knows that this is a legacy fight. Even though it's a legacy fight for him, it's even more so for Earl the Truth Spence. So Terrence Crawford is doing like most people done in the past and decided to milk this fight for all that it's worth. Since he feels like Earl really needs this fight. Terrence Crawford once said in a Twitter post that it's a lot of puppets out here, but I'm the puppet master. And see, Terrence Crawford is going to use that leverage because he has a great business sense. It's about supply and demand. And the supply is very scarce, and Crawford has the demand. He has the WBO belt, which will give Spence the last piece to the puzzle, which will make Spence the first four-belt welterweight undisputed champion. A legacy fight. So Terrence Crawford, he puts that all on the line versus Spence. He's giving up his 39-0 record, and he's giving up his undefeated record, his O, and the legacy. And Spence's superstardom is all in Crawford's hand. So Crawford is going to cash out because he's at the verge of retiring anyway. So Spence is going to have to pay the boss to be the cost. I got that wrong. He's going to have to pay the cost to be the boss. And Crawford's going to make sure of that. And as Brian Boback McIntyre has told us, Crawford has the last piece of the puzzle. So, by right, it's going to cost Earl Spence. And you can't blame him because if you was in that situation too, you would try to get the most for your money. So Earl, if he's going to want to make that fight, he's going to have to pay the cost. He's going to have to do what most champions had done in the past. And in this video right here, we're going to take a look at 10 other fights where the champion, the better fighter, had to take less money to get the legacy fight. Because this is for the future. So Earl Spence is going to have to put his money where his mouth is and have to pay his way to accept for the future. Because beating Crawford is a future fight. And if he beats Crawford, then that puts him in a whole new stratosphere, a whole new stardom. And Terrence Crawford ain't going to make it easy, and he ain't going to make it cheap with a 39-0 record on the line. We're going to take it to December 26, 1908, where we got heavyweight Jack Johnson versus heavyweight Tommy Burns. Jack Johnson received $5,000 while Tommy Burns received $30,000 for the heavyweight championship bout in which Jack Johnson won. Plus, Jack Johnson reputedly had to give 30% of his next 3 boxing purses to pay for that fight. So he bet it on himself. He knew he was great. He showed it. And he cashed out. So there go one in the daggone pass. Next, we're going to take it to Floyd versus Manny Pacquiao. And this is a unique one right here because usually the one taking the less money is the one that wins, which is the better fighter. But I just threw this one on here because Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, that was a legacy fight. And even though Manny Pacquiao was the 8 division champion, Floyd was 5 division and he was still undefeated. Floyd gained $180 million while Pacquiao, he only got $120 million, but it was a legacy fight and it was life-changing. May 2nd, 2015, Pacquiao and Mayweather broke all the pay-per-view records in boxing history. Next, we have a classic between Iron Mike Tyson and the Real Deal Holyfield, November 9th, 1996. A fight that should have happened much sooner, but both fighters had taken losses before the fight happened, so it lost a little bit of steam, but it still was a classic. And that right there, Mike Tyson earned $30 million while Evander Holyfield, the winner of the fight, only gained 12 million. But it was drastically reversed on the rematch where Holyfield got his ear bitten by Tyson. Next, we have one of the many mistakes of the promoter, Eddie Hearns, when he ruined AJ's career when he could have had life-changing money versus Deontay Wilder and made us miss a fight that we all clamor for. We got June the 1st, 2019, and we had the immediate rematch December the 7th, 2019. In the first fight, Andy Ruiz got $5 million while Anthony Joshua got $32 million. But as the champion, Ruiz got $10 million on the rematch while Joshua got $60 million. Next fight, it was the fall of the great one, Roy Jones Jr., Mr. Pound for Pound King. Happened November the 8th, 2003. Even though Jones walked away with a controversial win over Tarver, Jones collected $6 million while Antonio Tarver collected his career payday, which was $1.5 million, which was actually $800,000 more than they really wanted to pay Tarver in the beginning. But, he came back on a rematch and then ended up getting a fight in the movie Rocky Balboa. This right here is a recent one, June 5th, 2022. We have ferocious George Kambosos versus Devin the Dream Haney. Devin was by far clearly the A side. Kambosos became the champ off beating Teofimo Lopez. But Kambosos, he priced out the belts because he knew it was a retirement fight, so he got the most out of he could out of the belts. We've seen him garner over $10 million while Haney gets $3 million. Plus, he had a rematch clause in there, so the rematch was to be taking place in Australia as well for the same percentages, which was 70-30 split. Next, we have the record breaker, the beginning of the Money Man, Floyd Money Mayweather versus Oscar De La Hoya, the face of the nation. De La Hoya and Floyd had a 70-30 split, even though Floyd was pound for pound number one and De La Hoya had already lost already. But that fight took place May 5th, 2007, and at the time it broke all the pay-per-view records, and Floyd Mayweather walked away with $25 million, while Oscar De La Hoya garnered $52 million, which before that time was unheard of, such a big payday. Them two broke it all, and it was the start of Floyd Money Mayweather at the time. Next, we got the May 7th, 2022 upset of Canelo Alvarez, the face of boxing. Saul Canelo Alvarez was defeated by Bivol by unanimous decision, where the fight wasn't even close, but the pound for pound number one fell rock hard. But Canelo and Bivol had a $2 million guarantee while Canelo had a $15 million guarantee. At the end of the fight, Bivol garnered $5 million while Canelo walked away with $40 million, but the fight didn't garner as much pay-per-view as they thought because it was on DAZN. Next, we have the passing of the torch. This is another fight in which the fighter lost, but September 14th, 2013, we had Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Floyd Money Mayweather. And see, Saul was ended up able to get this fight because Floyd told him to go get a belt. So he went and unified his titles with Austin Trout. Then came back and went against the GOAT, Floyd Money Mayweather, which gave him a $5 million guarantee, and Floyd had a $41.5 million guarantee. And the fight seen him receive $12 million as Floyd got $100 million for the fight. So see, as history show us, to make it in boxing, you first got to give a lot to gain a lot. And to become the man, you got to beat the man, or beat the man that's selling it. And once you beat him, then the torch is passed to you. And for Earl Spence, right now, already he's the man right now, selling more than Bud. But Bud has what he wants. And Bud is a smart guy. And Earl Spence, if he really wants it as bad as he say he will, then he'll do what he has to do to make the fight happen so he can become who he is destined to be. As for Bud and Bomac, it's a case of being opportunists, and rightfully so. Bomac in his ear saying, look, we got what he wants. So Bud hears it because that's also his manager. So Earl Spence, you know what you got to do. Everybody's done it in the past. Hey, just buck up, because just realize after you do this, it's no limit on what your fights will garner in the future. And this will help launch you to a household name, not just in the United States, but worldwide. You already have a holiday named after you. Now we can push you to a global icon. So do what you gotta do and let's see this fight take place. I'm out.